Hello again.
Oh, welcome everyone to another episode.
Another episode of We've Got This Maybe, the podcast. I feel like we never say that. Oh my goodness, maybe we need to start opening the pod with an actual introduction.
And actually mention the title, because I must admit, like we always forget. We're so excited to talk to each other.
We're so bad. We barely even say it at the end, let alone at the beginning. So like we'll see. Start as we mean to carry on. Welcome to another episode.
Welcome to the episode.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
This one I think is going to be quite cathartic for me, because I think it's something that doesn't play on my mind a lot, like as in like all the time, but it's certainly just something that's always there in the background.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
100%. And I think from my side, I think now I'm older and I've got like a breadth of different friends that are in different situations, I'm seeing these sort of like situations, family dynamics, like presenting themselves more. And then I can relate it back to like my own personal experience of like this sort of setup. So what we're talking about today is, you know, blended families to a degree, but from our perspective. So, you know, your perspective being, did you ever consider that you'd be like entering into a blended family, or like falling in love with somebody and starting a life with somebody that had a previous life, I guess? And from my perspective is I didn't come from a blended family as such. I've got a nuclear family. Still didn't say that right. But I have a half brother from my dad's side who's quite a bit older, 12 years older than me, 10 years older than my brother. But I'm acutely aware of the situations that he would have had to be dealing with as a child, teenager, adult, where he's looking in on us all as a biological nuclear family, and him trying to be part of that and balancing us and his mum's side and all of the fun in between.
I think it's more common these days to kind of be open and talk about it. I definitely think it's more common, and there's a lot of people out there that I've met who I didn't realize, you know, had blended families in the way that you and I have sort of, you know, experienced them. But it's definitely something that I think I really like that it's starting to be talked about more, because there certainly is challenges on the step parent, but then there's also impact on the kids themselves. And that's why I'm really curious, to hear from your perspective of seeing this interaction with your older brother.
Yeah.
And did you call him an older brother? Did you call him a step brother? Did you call him a half brother? Did you call him adopted? Like, which way, you know, how did your family talk about it openly, comfortably? Was it really kind of not, you know, do you know what I mean? It's like everybody has a different approach, and I think even very unique. Even now, when people ask me about like my family setup and my siblings, I'm still not quite sure how to answer it, because I feel like I need to provide context to the situation a little bit. But we'll talk about that side of it in a minute. So let's wind back to you, because we've spoken about in previous episodes, and if you haven't listened to it, check back to one of the early ones about how you and Lawrence met. You met on Tinder, all of that fun stuff that we spoke about at the time. So how did it like come about to you that like Lawrence had another family, I guess, or he had children from a previous relationship? So I would say, in the oodles of people I was speaking to, he was definitely one of the ones that brought it up quite early. He was quite open and honest that he had, because I think Lawrence didn't just have kids from a previous relationship. He had kids from 2 previous relationships.
Fine.
So again, there's quite a stigma there. There's quite something that he knew a lot of people that he was talking to, women that he was talking to, may have like too much baggage, too much history. No thanks. So he knew quite early to kind of bring it up quite quickly that there was 2 mums. There wasn't just 1 mum, and there were 3 children, not just 1 kid.
And how old were the children at the time?
So at the time, the boys were, Maxwell was like 1.5. George was, I think, 4. And Maddie would have been 14, I think, when we met. 14, 15?
A huge variety then of ages.
For sure. And the boys have one mum, and Maddie has obviously her mum as well. And they came out of two very different relationships, different circumstances and situations. So, but to Lawrence, there's no difference. They're all his kids. So he loves them. He loves all of them. And it's wonderful to see his relationship with all of them because they're all very unique, but at the same time, they're all the same.
Yeah, interesting. And I think because he's the father, I guess most children, and I'll caveat this, but it's obviously not all children, but most children stay with the mother in a separated family. So he's obviously the father, so he's got a different set of responsibilities to if you and I had children and then we were entering into a new relationship. So that to contend with as well. So you meet him on Tinder, he shares with you that he's got kids. Like, what do you think initially? Because you've obviously got no kids at this point. Like, does it put you off? Like, what are you thinking?
It was so interesting because I guess at the point, when you're in that situation where you're dating and you kind of don't really think because you just want to, you're focused more on the relationship and you kind of think, okay, I can deal with the kids thing later. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I was just like, okay, I just need to know whether this vibe happens, like whether we vibe. And we did vibe. And I was like, okay, well, look, I'm more interested. I've got more motivation to actually understand the dynamic and the situation because I really like him. And the more we kind of talked about things, the more we realized we were on the same level and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I'm sure we can figure this out. Whereas I think he was a lot more sort of, I don't know, it's weird actually, because we kind of went hot and cold. One minute I was like, I don't want to meet them until we're serious. Like, it sounds awful, but I was like, I don't want to meet your kids. Like, until we really know that this could be something. I was very, very conscious that I don't want to come into a 1.5-year-old and a 4-year-old particularly. Maddie, again, she was slightly older, so you could kind of manage that a bit better because she's a little bit more mature. But, the boys were so young, and I could not see myself tangling up in their life.
Yeah.
And then suddenly realize it doesn't happen with their dad and bugger off.
So what you said is just like really resonated from another friend I've got, whereas she was the one that had the child, split up from his father, met somebody else, and she would not introduce the child to this guy until it was like deadly serious, like probably like on the brink of engagement. She was so protective of him. He was young, of his dad, of herself, and she didn't want to have that sort of in and out of his life because he'd already had the sort of like unsettled status thing because of the split between mum and dad, that she didn't want that to happen again. So I think what actually you've said is like so real, even though it's from the other side. Like, you're protecting them and protecting yourself.
Yeah.
But I know people that would do the exact same thing.
Yeah. And look, I mean, deep breath. If I'm brutally honest, like, I wanted a big family and I wanted to have hundreds of kids and have this big house full of joy and full of laughter and full of messy, half-eaten bowls of cereal and pants on the floor. Like, I wanted that. And it's been a weird sort of, but weird and wonderful kind of, journey that we've been on. And 8 years later, I just love that. I adore them all. And I hope they know that. And I'm sure they do, because I annoy them constantly to tell them that I love them and I think they're fab. And it's been an absolute honor for them to allow me into their space as well. Because I mean, obviously I've tried to ask them, but at the same time, you want to respect the fact that they're in a really difficult place because they're trying to balance the whole mum-dad thing. They're going from one house to another every weekend. They're shipping from one side of London to another. Like, there's a lot for them as little folk to carry. Like, Maxwell was 1.5 when I met him. And, for him having, all three of them to grow up to having to come to each other's houses. And, really feel for them that it must have been quite a difficult thing that, you know, they're having to be nice to this strange woman, and who is she, and
Which
what is,
you are this strange woman.
Yeah.
You're not the mother. You're on your best behavior.
What do they call me?
You're trying to please them as well, no doubt. And then you get into the whole, can I discipline you? Can I not discipline you?
How do I parent you?
Can I parent you at all?
Yeah. And you know what? At the very early stages, I think Lawrence was, I will give him his due. He was brilliant. He was really supportive and encouraged me. But we certainly hit a lot of snags. There was a lot of instances where I disagreed. And at the end of the day, I'm not the parent. And it was really hard. It was a hard pill to swallow. But I have to respect the dynamic between the parent and the two parents.
Yeah, cool.
So it's almost like I'm the teaching assistant to the teacher. It's like I'm more than happy to champion and endorse and lead when I'm asked to or have the opportunity to. But at the end of the day, I'm part of the parenting unit, so I can consult and give my advice. But I'm not the decision maker. But what's really complex is that when I have my own child, like obviously Sophia, is mine and Lawrence's, navigating the fact you have two other parents to consider in that whole parenting game.
So I was going to ask you, so obviously when you met Lawrence, Maxwell and George obviously knew Maddie already because they were a somewhat family relationship. How did they then feel about another person coming into their dynamic? Because obviously Maxwell and George were really young, so Maxwell especially didn't know any different from having this setup, but George maybe to a degree had some memory, and Maddie certainly. How did it vibe when you sort of told them that another little person was coming in?
So that's a really interesting question. So I have actually really fond memories about doing this because first off, all of them were amazing about it because, again, it was certainly not planned. We'd never spoken to the kids that we'd want another baby. It's definitely an unplanned.
Really?
It was a happy coincidence, happy incident. It was a really interesting. That's a whole for another podcast. But so it was all like, oh my goodness, and we're like, oh my god, how do we tell the kids? And so the boys were super cute, and they were like just really excited. They just, because the fact that they were having another brother or sister, they wanted a brother, but they love Sophia, but they wanted another boy to play with, and they were like, yay, another friend, another brother, and what we actually did, well, I say Lawrence did, and it was so adorable. So Maddie at the time was just 17, I think she was 17 when we found out, and Lawrence did a treasure hunt for her, like around the house.
At 17 as well. Fair play. You've got a 17-year-old doing a treasure hunt.
Yeah. Well, Maddie's quite fun like that. She's great. And I think Maddie's like she loves kids. She's ever since I've known her, she's loved playing with babies. She loves playing with kids. So she was a big kitty. And I think in a way she wanted a baby, whether it was hers or ours. Like she wanted the baby in the family. And we did this treasure hunt for her, and we got her. So basically, he did this like anagram where she was finding letters, and I think it was letters, and she had to work out, you're going to be a sister again, or something like that. We were trying to work out, and she'll probably blame me for not remembering this, but we've got it on video. And we basically, the gift, the prize at the end was a box with the pregnancy test in, the positive pregnancy test. And her face was a picture. She was so excited, so up for it, and she was so good when I was pregnant. And the boys were brilliant when I was pregnant. And, they all really embraced it and welcomed it. And even the mums were really, really understanding. We got gifts for for Sophia when she was born.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Which was lovely. I'm really, really grateful to both the mums for that. And, allowing us to have that space, because it's tricky, navigating pregnancy, navigating a newborn,
navigating other children.
That's it. So if you imagine like all the time that kind of like newborn bubble that you need to survive, you know, and when there's kids where it's like, it's our weekend, it's our turn, it's our, you know, it's a really difficult thing to navigate where I'm like, I don't have the energy for more kids. Like I don't. And having that understanding, we were so fortunate because I know a lot of people don't have mums who are that understanding, you know, other parents that are that understanding, you know. But yeah, no, we were very lucky that the kids were really good. And, you know, Maxwell and George were, I mean, to be fair, they were slightly motivated in the fact that when she was born, we did buy them PlayStation games. So
to keep them occupied.
there was multiple levels of motivation there. But, you know, like I genuinely feel they had, because they witnessed Sophia like from day dot, you know, they saw her develop and grow up and they were so interested. They were so curious. George in particular absolutely loved like feeding her, like, oh, what's she doing now? Why is she doing that? You know?
So that sort of just leads on to something I was thinking about. So how do you think they see Sophia? So do you think they see her as she's just my sister? Or do you think they see her as my half sister? Or I don't know.
Do you know, I've never asked them. And we've never really talked about it, if I'm totally honest, which is probably the most weirdest thing because us as a family, we talk about a lot of things together. And I've never asked them, and I probably will.
Do you know why I ask? Is because my own situation.
Right.
I remember being really young and I knew I had a half brother. And
is that what your parents used? Did they use the term half brother?
I don't know, not routinely. It wouldn't be like, we're going to go and see your half brother. Like, it was never like that. It was always, we're going to see
Yeah.
Or, like, do you know what I mean? Like, or we'll see your brother. Like, and that is generally why I've asked, because I remember being young, probably 4 or 5 years old, and people like asking, oh, how many brothers do you have? And I would be like, I've got a brother and a half brother. Because he didn't live with us.
Yeah.
Like he lived with his mum and we saw him. I can't quite remember because he was quite that bit older. Like, you know, when I was born, he was 12. When I was 5, he was teenager. He was off in uni when I was young. So, you know, it's not that he came and stayed with us every weekend that like yours do. So I felt like our relationship was always a little bit more like disjointed than that.
Like yeah, not I wouldn't say disjointed maybe, but just like distant.
It was separate. It's not like every week he came and stayed with us. So I would introduce it that way. So I wonder if that's how the boys introduced Sophia, and it wasn't a negative thing at all. It was just my way as a child of describing what my family setup was, because when people came to my house, or you know, they would only see one brother, or they'd know that my brother was at school, or, you know, those weird things.
Let me ask you this then, with your mum, and this again is obviously down to if you can remember or not, is did your mum say that she had 3 children or 2?
So we've only recently just had this conversation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can't remember what sparked it off. It really wasn't that long ago, because I was speaking to my mum about something or other, probably because people I know are now in this situation. And she would say, and again, rightly or wrongly, I don't know the answer to
I don't think there is one.
She would say that she's got 2 kids because she does.
In my head, I'm the same. I have 4.
No, but my mum has 3.
Sorry, yes. Okay, sorry.
Oh my God, my mum's a terrible person.
No. But again, I don't think there's a right or wrong.
But it's hard.
It is
so hard. But then again, it's because I don't think my eldest brother stayed in the same way. I don't think my mum had the involvement necessarily.
Oh, so the relationship with him maybe because he's older?
I could be wildly wrong
here.
You
don't like, do we?
You know, I'm not even entirely sure how old my brother would have been when my dad got together. Not that old, 5 and above, I would say. So not super, super young, not crazy old either, because, of the age difference. I'm thinking between my brother and then my other brother. But I did say to my mum, how many kids would you say she had? Or she was like, well, I've got 2 and then my husband's got another son or something like that.
Interesting.
But I don't know if that's maybe changed over the years.
I was just going to say, to me, the way I think I've heard you know, the way she said it, I think that's generational. I mean, again, I'm assuming it's massive.
Yeah, and I don't know either. But I can only say is like it's not ever been something in my family that we talk about. Really, is whenever we do family events, my brother's there.
Yeah.
Like it's all of that. But what I have seen is similar, and that's why I'm really interested about how like the boys, Maddie, Sophia, all work, because I've seen it from almost the other side of like my eldest brother navigating those like key yearly events like Christmas and stuff like that. Like difficult. And then, almost even harder, I guess, is he's looking at us as this family unit living in the same house, me and my brother being close in age and how we all do anything, family holidays and all that. And he's sort of, to a degree, the outsider, trying to make sure that his mother's side of the family is happy, that we're happy, we're all getting everything that we want. Maybe a little bit of jealousy, envy, whatever the right word is, perhaps looking at us, feeling like you haven't had that, maybe. I don't know. But over the years, I feel like their dynamic has changed, and we've had peaks and troughs in terms of relationship for sure across the family.
So that's what I was just about to ask you. In terms of how you've perceived your brother as you've grown up, have you been like, oh, this is my half brother, or do you and you're just like, hey, like, have you had a really like sibling relationship?
To a degree, but I wouldn't say I'm hugely close with either of them.
Okay.
I would say equally. Equally. And,
that's nice. Yeah.
Good, bad, ugly, whatever. I'm not quite sure. I'm not hugely close with any of them, but I try, and we're all there when we need to be. Yeah, when we need to be. But I probably have introduced him historically as half brother. Now I would probably just say I've got 2 older brothers.
Yeah.
And then if somebody's interested enough to ask more questions, then I would share the detail, I guess.
I am completely in that principle with you. So this is where when people say, how many children do I have? I say 4. And if they ask more detail, then I'll explain. Because to me, I don't see the kids as, when Lawrence and I are talking about the kids, we're talking about the kids, like all of them.
Yeah.
We are very inclusive. And I'm always considering the impact, because again, like you say, it's that balance between, like you're saying about your brother, navigating how does he come into that or set up unit? Whereas what's really interesting, we've got a lot of diversity in the sense of, I'm very paranoid because George and Maxwell have got each other. They're very, very close as brothers, which is wonderful because some brothers don't have that.
Yeah.
They're very, very close, and I can see them supporting each other and being there for each other. Although at the moment they may be going through a little development phase. But, Maddie's very protective of the boys. She's very in love with Sophia. Like, it's lovely. I mean, it causes absolute chaos when all 4 of them get together. It's like Power Rangers. But I always feel, I don't feel sorry for Sophia. There's something in my head that, like, I worries for Sophia. And it's whether it's a guilt or not. I don't know what it is. But the fact that George and Maxwell have got each other and they're so close. Maddie is such a strong, older woman now.
And she's older now.
She's 22, like girl bossing all over the place. She's doing a great job. We're very proud of her. But Sophia's like, if something happened, like if we both suddenly weren't here, like, I'm like, oh my God, would the boys look after her? Would Maddie would they still be present for Sophia as siblings? I'd like to think they would be, because of the relationship of what I witness and how I see them all getting on. And, Sophia just adores her big brothers. Like, she annoys the hell out of them. But at the same time, I think
that's just a sister's job.
Little sisters, it's in the contract.
Literally, that's a sister's job.
So, and I think I'd like to think that there's enough of a relationship there. I would be really interested to see if, like, how Maxwell and George and Maddie talk about her. I think, and again, I'm making an assumption. I think Maddie, I would probably more confidently say she would definitely say she's got 3 like siblings. She wouldn't say step brothers or stepsisters. She would say brother and sister, knowing her as I do. The boys, I don't know. I'd have to ask them that question and just see if they're willing to give me the answer.
So interesting. Like when we were younger, what I also found is the relationship between my parents and my brother's mum was like brilliant, like weird. I'm sure it wasn't brilliant, but what I witnessed was in the sense that occasionally my mum and my dad would go away on my dad's work trip, and my mum would go along, and we'd go and stay with his mum.
Wow, that is a good relationship.
Do you know what I mean? And then he had another brother, another half brother from her side as well, and we'd all be there together. And like,
that's amazing.
Occasionally, like we'd do stuff, or it was never like hostile that I witnessed. And and I'm sure you can like say that as a step parent, you would never allow your kids to see that maybe. So actually, I don't know what the reality was, but to me, in that moment, it always felt like brilliant. And I think maybe that's also what's helped, is because there wasn't, or there didn't appear to be like huge conflict between like my mum and my dad and then my brother's mum, and it was all sort of like relatively like fair and easy. I get maybe not so much when he was younger, but as I say, by the time me and my other brother came along, he was older by then, and then it's a different setup.
So the phases are different. The way you parent's different, and it's a different approach, isn't it?
And I just remember, when I was in like primary school, I had this like cooler older brother that was at uni or who was traveling. And like on a weekend that he would come round, he'd bring his girlfriend, he'd bring us a present, and it would be cool. Like, and I'd really look forward to it. He would always buy like the best presents, because I don't know why, he just did. Like, you'd always look forward to that present. And even now, like as a family, we've stuck by some of the traditions that we've had, in the sense that where my eldest brother would always spend Christmas Day with the mother's side of the family. Boxing Day was always the big day in my house, because he would come, and then like other family members, maybe on my dad's side, would have come because he was coming. So we had this much bigger Boxing Day, and we've sort of carried that through now. So over Christmas, even now, in my household, Boxing Day is the day.
Yeah, it's the family day.
That's the family day. On Christmas Day now, obviously, now as adults with my own family, I've got, Rory's family to consider, my family to consider. And like, we're those weird people now where we're like, Christmas Day, we'll do whatever you want, but Boxing Day is our day. And most people are precious over Christmas Day, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's traditionally the sort of the day for family, isn't it? Whereas I actually am with you, because to me, Boxing Day is such a big day, because we tend to get all the family together, and that's when we get the boys.
Yeah.
That's when, we tend to do that, and that's the way our celebration happens. And
totally.
So for example, what we do now is that we've created a thing. So, Lawrence's surname's Friend. So we now, the weekend before Christmas, as much as we try and make it happen every year, sometimes it doesn't, but we've created Friendmas.
Oh, I love that.
So Boxing Day is the big day, but that's like every bit of the family. So we try and see my parents, we try and see like the boys, and we try and bring everybody together. And even my sister, she's part of a blended family as well. So we try and bring them in, and like it's like a huge get together. So we all try and get together on Boxing Day. But on Christmas Day, we're never going to achieve the dream. We're never going to achieve what we want. So we have created Friendmas the weekend before, where we pretend it's Christmas. So we all get Christmas pajamas. We all have a little present under the tree. Like, it's super cute. We do board games and we all watch a movie together. But it's a day to spend in our pajamas all day. There's annoyingly high levels of Christmas festivity everywhere. The kids must get like, oh my God, Vix is at it again.
No.
But again, I like, I go way above board, and it's just all about being a family. So we try and avoid devices.
Yeah.
And we play board games, and we do, like wholesome, like wanting family stuff.
Because the kids are older, you can get away with the stuff like the board games. Please adopt me.
Yeah.
Please adopt me. I want to come.
Erin, we'll extend the family invite. It's absolutely that.
That sounds so much fun. It's actually, like, I'm really looking forward to those sorts of Christmas, actually, when the children are that little bit older. We're still, I feel, in my house anyway, in that peak, like, kids just being, like, annoying, irritant because they get overwhelmed really easily. It's all actually a bit too much.
A little,
yeah. It's all
Max has got a couple of years, hasn't he, until he kind of...
Totally. But I love actually just hearing that, and it brings a lot of things back. And I do have like I guess some like empathy for like how that must have been for everybody involved, like how it must have been for my parents trying to navigate that. Now I'm friends with people that are trying to navigate that, how it must have been for my brother, to a degree, even for me and my other brother, like how we managed that, like my mom, the other mom, like all of this stuff. I think like when you sort of step back and you sort of see how all the puzzle pieces would have been coming together, it's like really, really interesting. And I would love to know, even maybe, you know, maybe it's just something I need to ask my brother, like how it was for him as well, like seeing it. And as I say, like it sounds like all of like the kids in your family are relatively close. Not something that we have on my side, and I'd be interested.
But then it's like that happens with like biological siblings.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter if they're sort of blended or not. And you know, some people are super close, some aren't. Is it down to the nature or the nurture? Is it down to the way the family's been brought up, the relationship the parents have with the siblings? Is it the way that the siblings have been encouraged to be together? There's so many different dynamics that could kind of come into that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this then. Do you ever find like the discipline element of having a blended family difficult? Because, you know, you discipline Sophia in a certain way and she lives by like certain standards, I guess. And the boys are living in like their world and they know what the setup in their house is, then different in here, and then Maddie or whatever. Like, is there any ever like conflict with that sort of stuff? Like, how do you manage that?
Yes.
All right, fine. Yes.
It's. I always say that's the most difficult part of being part of a blended family, because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not the parenting unit to the majority of the kids. Because obviously, there's 4 children. I've got one which is biologically mine. And the others, you know, they've got the mum and they've got the dad. So it's like, you know, at the end of the day, I have to respect that. And so Lawrence and I have navigated this, and we have fallen over. We have we've exploded. We've done things badly. We've done things great. Like there's all sorts of like things. And I think it's a journey that you have to go on. But the main thing that I guess, I mean, not that I'm giving advice because I'm not accomplished or anything, but the main thing for me is being open and honest about how it makes you feel. So it's understanding what is a should, what should you be doing, and what is a that's just because you feel left out or you feel unsure, or, you know. So, for example, we have principles in this house.
Yeah.
Because then it's flexible. So it's not that we tell you have to do X, Y, Z, and this is the way we expect it to be done. It's like, we want everybody to be kind. You don't be horrible in this house. You have to be kind. You have to be thoughtful and mindful of other people. So again, whether that's putting your plate in the dishwasher, whether it's making your bed, or whether it's just being nice to your sibling, or nice to, you know, to your dad or whatever, like it's just being mindful of other people. And then the other thing for us is about, we want time as a family because we're weekend parents.
Yeah.
We don't get to see them that often. And I mean, at the moment, it's terrifying. Lawrence and I were talking about this the other day. The boys come every weekend and they are growing up every weekend.
And soon they're going to have other things they want to do on the weekend.
Already this is happening, you know, and we want them to have that space to make those choices. So again, we don't want them to feel guilty going, oh, can't we ask to go to mum and to dad and Vix's, but I know they're going to get upset if I don't go. We don't want them to ever feel under pressure to come. We want them to want to come.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, you know, trying to build that into the conversation with them, saying, look, it's totally your choice within your realm of, control. You can decide if you want to come. If you want to come, we always want you here. We miss you. We love you. We'd love to do stuff with you. But if you've had a crap week at school, if you just, your mates are going out, it's a great sunny day.
That's it.
I want to go play with my friends. They're all hanging out at the park. We're also really fine with that. And as much as we'll have to go, okay.
You don't want them to resent you for forcing them to do something. And
that's when Lawrence and I, it's almost weird. It's like we normally naturally have a debrief at the end of the weekend. So we help each other through it because, it must be so hard for him as a parent having to navigate co-parenting in 2 different places, 2 different dynamics, 2 different lifestyles. He's having to help, navigate that. I'm on the outside going, oh, should we do this? Oh, should we do that? Because I've obviously got my own ideas.
Yeah.
So he's not only having to navigate the mum-dad co-parenting long distance thing, he's also having me as his partner, partner, going, this is what I want to do, Sophia. Should we do this with the kids? Like it's in my head, it's like him being.
It's honestly, it's making me dizzy.
Yeah, like yanked from one way to the other because the mums will have different ideas to me, and I get that, and it's. I'm feeling a bit kind of weird about this because I'm kind of opening up stuff that I don't think I've actually ever articulated, and it's kind of making me feel a bit emotional. But like, I want to be there for Lawrence as well as a father. Oh my God, where did I come from? Father, where are Yorkshire? But again, I want to be there for him as a dad because it's hard. It is freaking hard.
And the fact that he's like stayed with it. And I know a lot of people would be like, well, he's their dad, right? But a lot of people don't.
They back off.
They back off, take the easy route out. Oh, they're with their mum, whatever. But I don't think enough credit is given to people that stick around because it can be easy for everybody involved often for somebody just to step away because then you don't have the conflict, you don't have the difference of opinion, you don't have that setup. Do you know what I mean?
It is so hard. And, sometimes my heart breaks because I wish I could spend more time with them. I wish I could do more for them. I wish I could do more with them. But again, they're living such, this, I don't understand and I can't empathize. And I try, but I can't empathize with what it must feel like to go from one environment to another, having to live by one rule in one house, another rule in another house. Like the way that must play with your mind must be incredibly difficult. And like we were saying, Maxwell was tiny, he was so little. He probably can't remember pre-me. But George can. George has said that before. He can remember before Daddy met me. And I don't know. It just, it blows my mind sometimes in thinking about the whole kind of existential situation and how we handle it, how we navigate it, the guilt of holidays. Like, I'm really interested from your side of like how your parents manage that. And the bigger thing, I think, for me, which is, again, I really want to ask you about is what was your wider family? So your mum's family in particular, what was their relationship with your older half brother?
So, my mum actually has, quite a small family herself. Okay. Like she is an only child and, her dad left when she was very young. So she only has a very small family. And I think my mum's mum was really open to
amazing
him. And like they have a weirdly wild, good relationship. Like it's strange actually. Like she's very fond of him.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
I thought in a strange way.
Yeah.
So I'm probably sure there was some preconceptions there, like when my mum had shared with her mum that she was with a guy that had another child, because I'm sure that's default, right? Like I just think that might be a natural reaction, but like what I know is there wasn't a problem. And I look at the relationship now between my nan or my mum's side and my eldest brother, and it's fine, same as all of the others. But you touched on the holiday thing, and I can only ever really remember going on a couple of holidays with my eldest brother. And it maybe was a choice thing on his part. You know, we actually didn't go on a huge number of holidays when we were that young. You know, money was tight or whatever. Like we might have gone like to France or something like that, but it wasn't any like big, huge holiday. And then when we did start to go on like bigger holidays, I was probably like 8 or 9. And then by then, my brother's much older. Even probably when he was a teenager, he might not have wanted to come on holiday with his like 2 and 3-year-old brother and sister. So I don't ever really remember us having that sort of dynamic.
Yeah, that's really interesting because that's one of the, we were talking about a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about guilt and sort of, that whole mum-parent guilt.
Yeah.
I have a lot of guilt I hold, which I need to kind of process and deal with and kind of manage, but I hold off. Lawrence always wants to book a holiday. We were talking about holidays, how you need to have a holiday to look forward. Lawrence needs a holiday to look forward. I feel so hesitant to book holidays if we can't take all the kids, if we can't afford it.
Do you generally take all of the kids?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've done a full holiday, all of us together once since we've all been together. And it was very expensive. No doubt about it. It was a very expensive holiday, but I hold so much guilt and I hold so much hesitancy about booking holidays because I just feel the guilt of like, I want to take all the kids. We can't afford to take all the kids. But then I'm like, when we get invites, so, when we have other family members, I've got, close family friends who I've grown up with who are like, oh, let's all go on holiday together. My family up north are like, come up north and see us. And I'm like, it's just me, Lawrence and Sophia. And there's a huge pang of guilt throughout that whole trip. Don't get me wrong. I do enjoy it. I love being wherever I go, whatever we do. But at the same time, there's a number of moments in that holiday where I'm just like, I just wish all of them were here.
But do you think they see that? Like, I guess when they go on holiday, are they wishing like Sophia was there? Like, I don't know, like
sibling-wise, probably no. I think, I don't know. I don't want to speak on behalf of the kids. Like, do you know what I mean? I've not asked these questions.
It's a difficult one. I feel like you're putting, like, I understand it, right? I do understand it. But I guess if they were all to go on holiday, maybe with like the mothers or whatever.
So I do know, particularly, and I won't say which one, but one of them in particular really gets upset when we go on holiday because I will say, because I don't want to, but they feel, and I don't think it's left out. I think it's bigger than that. I think they want to be there selfishly because they want to go on holiday.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there is like and I don't think they take it out on Sophia. They don't blame her. They don't hold it against her at all, because we do try and talk to all the kids about it. But there is something there that upsets them when we go abroad or when we go on holiday up north. But the problem is that there is a limitation on what we can and can't do with all of them.
Yeah, just logistics, money aside.
Preference. They'd be bored, like half the time when we go up north, and this is what I was asking you about, what your extended family thought of your half brother, because my family bloody loved them all. And they want to see them all. And they'd spend the whole week, which is what we do when we go up north. It's like, I want to go see my family and I want to go see them all and spend time with them. Now they're like, Maxwell's 10, George is 13, Maddie's 22. They'll all be sat there on their phone, bored out of their minds.
But I think stepchildren, half children, biological children, anything aside, that is just a child, right? You would take a teenager anywhere, that is what they would be doing. I don't think that comes down to anything. So don't put the pressure on you.
No, you are right about that, actually. I think it's and I don't know whether any of the listeners have this as well, but there is a pang of guilt every time we choose to do something with Sophia, even down to taking her out for dinner. There is a pang of guilt going, I want to make sure all the children have the same representation or opportunity.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll tell you now for fact, I have that with my 2 children if I end up giving one of them something and not the other one. So say, for example, Max had to go for a doctor's appointment today. On the way home, he was brilliant at the doctor's, stopped over at the shop, got him an ice cream. End of the day, I felt crazily guilty that Freddie didn't get an ice
Didn't get
cream.
one.
Like, do you know what I mean? So that is, you know, you're not alone in that. That is anything. We take Freddie to soft play because he's got an inset day. Max doesn't have an inset day. He's at school. I then feel really bad that we've had a day with Freddie doing something great and Max has been in school, or you know what I mean?
So I think that's the right approach, but like the guilt's still there. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
stop. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we're on the right level because I want to give them all equality and equity. Like, I want to give them that like opportunity. But, you know, Lawrence is very good at being quite like, look, we don't get the opportunity in the way that we do with Sophia, like you're saying about last minute opportunities and things like that. Like, and also, you know, Sophia's younger, so there is more things that you kind of do with a younger kid than you do with an older kid.
And I think you will hold more guilt because you're trying to please in a different way to how Lawrence is.
Yes, no, and Lawrence definitely can do more disciplining than I can.
Yeah.
I can't. I do to a point. In terms of, you know, I was saying about those principles, like I can definitely kind of deliver in like why we talk the way we do, why we expect or respect each other the way we do, but I can't come down on them because it's just not fair. It's just such a difficult thing to navigate how to manage that relationship you've got with those children, because I think there's such a lot of pressure on them as well.
I think you're never going to find the answer. It's a really, really difficult one.
God, that was quite a good one.
It's a good one. But again, like, I think it really just shows like everybody, literally everybody is just figuring it out. Like, have we got this? Maybe we do, maybe we don't.
Yeah.
Who knows? We're just trying our best.
That's it. And that's all you can do. And I know we harp back to this so many times, but it's just as long as you're doing something with kindness and you're like trusting yourself and that you're doing it for the right reasons, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do apart from just trying to do the right next thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And you definitely are.
Yeah, well, you too, babe.
Love that.
I know we haven't got any wine left.
Last sip.
You've got one
Little
sip.
sip. Cheers.
Cheers.